You not only star in Wanted Man, but you co-wrote and directed it as well. Who is a director that you've worked with that you felt like you learned the most from?
Hmm, good question. I learned a lot from the first guy who I gave him my first job. And that was Sidney Furie. He's like an old time director. He did a bunch of movies with Marlon Brando and Michael Caine, and he got sick 2004, and I took over. He was supposed to direct me in a movie, and he I learned a lot from him. I think I've learned from Stallone about discipline and being prepared and so forth. Um, yeah, and also I haven't worked with Clint Eastwood, but read about him as a director, and he likes to do a few takes. He likes to move fast, and I feel the same way about my work as a director. I like to make it simple and enjoyable for everybody involved.
Now, I know that this is not the first time that you've directed too, that you've done a couple of other films. And would you ever have any interest in directing a franchise film for a major studio? Like, did they ever ask you about doing an Expendable sequel or anything like that?
No, no, they haven't. I mean, the thing is, the franchise industry is changing so quickly, and I think it's so CGI driven now that um, I think a lot of people that are good at those superhero movies come from the horror genre. Um, so I don't know if I'd be good at it. I don't mind making smaller movies. I think it feel. I mean, I like to step up a little bit in budget and so forth and cast, but I don't know if I want to get in there and work for 3 years on something like they do. It's a big undertaking, and it isn't. It isn't. It's very tedious. It's so we'll see, but I'll just stick to where I am right now, maybe.
That actually leads me to my next question because there's one point in the movie where Travis mentions how he loved the 80s and it got me thinking like what's something from movies or filmmaking, from the 80s that you miss today that you feel like we don't get that anymore?
Ooh, good question. Well, there was such a simplicity to it back in those days. You didn't have to check all the boxes. You could make a movie about anything. It didn't have to be politically correct. It didn't necessarily have to, you could also the action was more. It was more real. It was more in camera. That's changed. But I mean, you can't go back in time. So I don't know if I want to go back to the 80s, but I think, you know, that it was a certain, it feels like a certain innocence about it that, the studio, the film world it wasn't run by corporations as much in those days. It was more individuals. So it was more in you didn't have committees making decisions, creative decisions. So it
Right.
was a bit easier in that way.
Now, one thing I think you don't get enough credit for in your career is how good your hair has always looked. Uh, like I was curious because, like I said, I grew up on you playing He-Man, and you had the luxurious, mullet and the Punisher, and your hair was really dark. And I was curious, was that really your hair, or did you wear wigs in those films?
Well, the Punisher was just my hair, but it was just dye dark. It took 2 years for it to come back. In those days, the dye stayed in. The He-Man had very long hair, but it was extensions, I think, to augment it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And now I love both of those movies, like I said, and out of those two roles, would you ever be interested in portraying like an older version of those characters?
Older He-Man, I don't know. But
I think I would love look, I say this as He-Man was my hero growing up. I mean, I was like 5 when I watched that movie and it really stuck. I love that movie so much. And I'd love to see older He-Man. I mean, I think that's some untapped potential.
maybe as long as my costume can be a little more substantial. It was about the size of a stamp, in those days. So I think I just have to add a few layers of costume. But the Punisher, yeah, it could be like an old ass kicker and gray hair. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. One thing I did want to talk to you about real quick was that the Ivan Drago has always sort of been synonymous with villainy, but I personally think Andrew Scott from Universal Soldier is the most evil character that I've ever seen you play. Do you think Drago gets all the credit because of how cool his name is?
Um, I think is that movie was just a big film, and it was well done and it had a social kind of political overtone with Soviets versus Americans, in those days. And obviously, Drago was kind of he kind of personified the Soviet state, right? The workers' hero. Uh, so I think Drago had really cool hair. Maybe that was the edge. I don't know. The haircut.
The hair was cool. Now over the years, I mean, you have built up like this incredible filmography, and obviously there's some things that you're really well known for. But I was curious, like, what's one particular performance that you're not known for, but you're very proud of that you'd love for more people to go back and check out?
Well, you can always check out me in the Eurovision Song Contest when I do my Elvis Presley singing performance and break some ice and dance around with some good-looking girls. Just check that out.
Okay, I'll go look at it right after this. Now, I do. I know that you also recently expressed, disappointment about your role being cut back in Aquaman 2 and those reshoots. And I was curious if that experience has sort of soured you at all, appearing in like future comic book films.
No, I just realized that it was some kind of corporate decision that they try to limit Amber Heard, and then I'm playing her dad, kind of went with it, along with it. I was just disappointed for the movie goers because I thought the original script was great, and the original cut was, I saw a little bit of it, was really good. So I didn't see any reason to start reshooting and reshaping the story. It's obviously led to disappointment in the moviegoers, and not just me, but I'm nothing against superhero universe. I think I like to, sure, if I can be part of it, why not?
Right. Last question. I know you're a busy man, and I wanted to say I appreciate it again for your time. Thank you
You're
very
even
much.
busier, so don't worry about it.
Well, were you worried at all about dehydration when you filmed the Old Spice commercial?
Okay. Yeah, I was worried about the hydration. I was worried about the guy who was supposed to be me being too thin.
He wasn't as muscular as you were back in the day.
No, not
No,
at
not
all.
at all. No, thank you again for taking the time, and I really appreciate it. I'm very excited also for Flip a Coin. I just want to say that I've seen the trailer for that, and that looks right up my alley. So
Thanks, man.
this has been great, a real treat for me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, buddy. Have a nice holiday in Hawaii.
Thank you.